Milan come from behind yet again in the second half, this time a 2-1 win at home against Como. Can the Rossoneri get top four after all? Let's pump the brakes. The road is still difficult. Let's get into the video. What's going on, guys? My name is Matt. You guys might know me from That Milan podcast with Martino Puccio. You guys can go check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple for more content. I'm today's guest content creator. So a little update from Kush. He had a family situation arise, which prompted him to extend his vacation a little bit more. So if you wanted to keep in touch with him and get up to date on what's working with him, you guys can follow him on Instagram and YouTube here at Football Kush. So let's get into today's review of Como Milan. Milan come away with a huge victory at home against Como, a 2-1 win, which basically was a tale of two halves in this one. The first half, Como dominated much of the proceedings. There were a couple instances for Milan where they could have scored a goal, specifically very early on with Yunus Musa. Now, Yunus Musa played in a double pivot with Warren Bondo, which was a big talking point coming into this one, with Tijani Reinders pushing more into that advanced playmaker role alongside Rafael Leao, Pulisic, and of course, Jimenez as the striker. And early on, Milan did create probably one of the best chances they could have gotten in this game through Yunus Musa. Now, he rounded the keeper, had a clear sight on goal, and just for whatever reason, couldn't push it to the bottom corner. And it left Milan in a little bit of a precarious situation because as the first half progressed, Como really grew into this game. Now, the game was still open for most parts of the match, but Como were coming into this environment ready to play. They saw that Milan were struggling. They knew Milan were a team that could be had defensively, a team that if you press them and you push the envelope, you can create things from nothing. And sure enough, Como were a team that were very aggressive in this game. And I think that's a testament to what Cesc Fabregas and this group have tried to accomplish in their return to Serie A this year. They're a team that, has gotten quite a few points from those in the top part of the table, and they aren't fearful of any opponent. And I think that's a big testament to them, especially a Milan team that, as I mentioned, is down in the dumps, sitting in ninth at the time of recording. So I want to get into more of what Milan did well in this game, and more so give you guys the key takeaways in the form of players. And then the last one's going to be something a little bit different because I think that on a group level, this team showed something else in this match. So let's get into the four takeaways for Como Milan. The first takeaway in this one is the performance of Christian Pulisic, who, by all accounts, you can make an argument for being Milan's MVP this year. The way he's been able to come on of late after a little bit of a difficult spell when it comes to not scoring goals or not being able to provide the difference in the final third. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with Milan's struggles, right? Where you look at your top players to produce in moments of difficulty and struggle and look for them to carry you over the edge. And with injuries and Milan's overall downtrodden play, I think it's no surprise to kind of align that with Christian Pulisic and some of his maybe difficulties over the past month or two. But in recent weeks, he's come on quite big for Milan. Last week, he had 2 goals in the come-from-behind win against Lecce away. And in this match, put on yet another strong performance on the right side. He was dynamic, pressing, pushing forward, trying to make something happen, trying to give this team a little bit of an edge that they maybe have lost in this calendar year. And he provides a fantastic left-footed goal that was some really good build-up play from Tijani Reinders and also Rafael Leao. And he also, as well, was just kind of more or less in the thick of things. He was, willing to be an aggressive player, willing to do whatever it takes for Milan to get the result on the day, which really is all that matters at this point. And if you look at his numbers and you look at what he's been able to compile this season, I think he is in line to have his best year of the two so far, which I think goes to show you that despite Milan's struggles, their woes, their positioning in the table, this is a player that's really growing on strong, and it's only a matter of time until he gets that contract renewed and he gets the re-up on his wages that he so rightfully deserves. So big ups to Christian Pulisic today. Captain America continues to springboard Milan into crucial results. Our second takeaway of the day is the overall play and impact that Tijani Reinders has had, not just this season, but really since he arrived. So this is a player in his first year last year that, was a little bit difficult to watch at times. And I think more so down to the fact that I think that people saw a lot of glimpses, a lot of quality in his overall play. But when it came to the final third, when it came to, being clinical, he really left something to be desired. This was a player that didn't score many goals, but I think when you watched him play and operate throughout a 90-minute match last year, you kind of were left scratching your head saying, why doesn't this player have many more goals? Why isn't he someone that can be a little bit more ruthless in the box and give this Milan team, a little bit more dynamism when it comes to offensive output? You look at the numbers of some of the players in this team like Rafael Leao and Pulisic, and you can understand that Milan do need to get goals from somebody else. Tijani is a good creator. He's a good passer. He's very technical. But I think that the offensive game, the scoring side of his game, needed to show itself in its second year. And man, has it shown in a big way. This is a double-digit scoring season so far for Tijani Reinders. He gets a great goal in this one, the deciding goal. A really calm finish. I think that, you look at the way he kind of inserts himself into the match, and I think it's pretty clear how he is much more comfortable playing in a more advanced role. As we mentioned off the top, Warren Bondo and Yunus Musa were playing in that double pivot. That's one of the roles that typically Tijani has occupied for the majority of this season alongside Youssef Fofana, who is on the bench. Sergio Conceição puts him forward, puts him in a more advanced area, understands that this guy is a crucial player. He's a big-time playmaker who just got a new contract, promises to be at the focal point of this project going forward in the years to come. And in a match like this, you really kind of get to see why Milan fans are so begging for him to be closer to goal. Because I think they understand that he's able to combine play a little bit more fluid than our other attacking options in that number 10 area. And also he has added that attacking edge, that scoring edge to his game that has really elevated his overall play and impact for Milan. So in a match like this, I think you really got a full picture and full encapsulation of what Tijani Reinders is for Milan and ultimately what he means for Milan, not just the rest of the season, but for the seasons to come after his new renewal. Our third takeaway for this match is the impact off the bench by Tammy Abraham. Now, this has been a pretty divisive topic and, a player that when he arrived at Milan, I think there were a lot of doubts, and rightfully so, right? This was a player that in his first season at Roma really kicked on, produced a lot of goals, and many saw him being, that hitman, that consistently clinical player for Roma going forward. But injuries completely derailed his career. He goes on loan to Milan with Alexis Saelemaekers going the other way, who, by all accounts, has been one of Roma's best players this season and largely to credit for their resurgence in the second half of the season. But in a match like this, Tammy Abraham really came on and made a surprising impact. Santiago Jimenez started in this game, and I think some struggles continue to persist around his game, and not necessarily down to so much his overall play, but I think that the way that Milan is set up, their system, the way they build up and spring forward to create chances for Santiago, who is working hard. It's just he's not really getting the involvement, the touches, the opportunities to inflict that damage in the box, which is what Milan signed him for, of course, in January. But in a match like this, Tammy Abraham comes on and immediately gives Milan a little bit of something. And you can see the familiarity he has with playing within this group versus what Santiago has offered, which we hope comes in time, as obviously he just joined in January. But you look at Tammy Abraham's ability to involve in the build-up play back to goal, get those little flick-ons and layoffs, and create space and opportunities for those around him. And that was a perfect example for what he did in not just the first goal from Pulisic. He was involved in that sort of build-up, but also the second goal, which was crucial. That the fact that he's able to play back to goal and just set a simple flick on Tijani into space and Tej does the rest. So I think that while this performance doesn't completely, change the fortunes of Tammy Abraham's season, which by all accounts I think has been pretty disappointing, and I don't think it necessarily changes his future. I don't think he will actually stay at Milan unless, of course, he has a great finish to the season. He scores goals. The management sees something different from him that leads them to believe that we want to keep this player going forward. But I think that Milan is at the point of the season now where they need to get wins any way they can. And if that means Tammy is providing an impact like this off the bench and giving them that sort of support striker that they need for those wide players like Rafa and Pulisic who will do damage, will get into space, will take guys on. I think that you have to be pretty relieved with what you're able to get from a Tammy Abraham off the bench in a performance like this, which, again, just goes to show you a striker can do more and make an impact if he's not scoring goals. Our fourth and final takeaway for this match is the collective effort, desire, and energy for Milan to overturn this and get the victory. It's not something we've seen on many occasions this year. We saw it last week against Lecce. It's ugly. It's gritty. It's not ideal. It's not the type of football that you can expect to play and get results on a weekly basis. But at this point, you beggars can't be choosers. Milan need to get victories. That's all that matters. Any way you slice it, any way you can get it. And to get 2 in a row with a little bit of desire, a little bit of an extra edge, a little bit of more fight within this team in that 25 to 30 minute span where they were trailing. Como were still moving the ball around quite well. The possession still looked good. And by all accounts, it looked like Como were potentially in a position to win this game. They had a goal get ruled off because of the foul in the initial buildup on Alex Jimenez. But this is a match that Milan can maybe look at in, pockets and spans of 15 to 20 minutes and think, well, what did we do good here? What worked? We know what didn't work. It's the same problems, the same issues that have persisted the entire season. But in that span where Milan scored 2 goals and the build-up play looked very strong and the final third end product was there, what did Milan do well enough, and where can they take that and bring it to the games to come after the international break, which are going to be very difficult? You have Napoli, you have Fiorentina, you have the Coppa Italia against Inter. So Milan are going to need to bring some really quality play, and you hope that what they were able to do in the second half to overturn this one is translatable. It's something that maybe is a sign of things to come, that if nothing else, Milan can finish the season strong, because the truth of the matter is this, guys. There are still things to play for Milan. Top 4 is still a long shot. The road ahead is going to be very difficult. But I think ultimately you want to have an understanding of what we are dealing with going forward. Which players within this team are worthy of keeping? Which players have a long-term future here? Which players do not? We saw what Yunus Musa has been doing with a lot of starts, and that's something that he didn't have last year under Stefano Pioli, which was a big criticism of Pioli because people were saying that he should have played more, and same thing with Samuel Chukwueze. But this season, we've seen quite a few from some of these fringe players, and they haven't taken that opportunity and seized it. So ultimately, I think that is somewhat of a takeaway for this one, is that what Milan did in that span to overturn this match is something that we hope can be translated in the matches to come. And let's see how things shake up. If Milan can somehow manage to compile victories and we scoreboard watch and those teams around us drop points and slip up, maybe Milan find themselves in the conversation towards the back end of the season where there is a glimmer of hope. There is a potential opportunity and reality where Milan is playing Champions League football next year. Don't get your hopes up, but with this team, never say never, I guess. Right, guys? That wraps up this video, guys. I want to thank Kush once again for having me as the guest content creator for this review of Milan's victory over Como at San Siro 2-1. Make sure you guys are following That Milan Podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, X, all our social channels. And be sure to follow Kush on Instagram for his input on games like this and also the ones to come out of the international break. We will see you again soon. Bye for now.